Hi everyone, it's Katrina from the Alluring Bead Boutique, and today I want to talk to you guys about the traditional start to herringbone. I've been bead weaving for getting close to 4.5 years now, and never have I actually seen this start done to herringbone on any tutorial or any other patterns or anything that I've seen. The way I've always learned it was that you start with the letter bead base. So imagine my surprise when I purchased the bead and button handbook and I see, I get ready to learn, improve my skills with herringbone, and the first thing I see is the traditional start to herringbone. So if you'll notice here, I've worked up a little sample before we start the technique just to show you guys what the difference is. So if I were to ladder stitch my base beads together, you would see that all of these beads here would be connected. But because I did, I tried this the other day, I couldn't figure out what I was doing, but today for some reason I got it. But if you look here on my columns and my stacks of my herringbone here, the bottom looks very similar to the top. You do not have a thread bridge connecting this bottom layer of beads. Just like at the top, you don't have a thread bridge connecting those beads yet unless you were to work another round. It presents a whole different look down here at the bottom, and you have to start with a stop bead. And you can see my stop bead was a little bit loose because that bottom stitch was just, pulling, the thread was exposing. So I scooched the stop bead back up. But this is what it looks like if you were to accordion it out, and then at the top it looks exactly the same. So I'm not sure design-wise or conceptually what I would do with this to begin with, but I'm going to teach it to you guys. It's a little frustrating. Get yourself out a couple of colors of seed beads, doesn't matter what size, and then we will get started, and I'll show you guys how I figured this out and how you can do this if you so choose. Okay, so I put a stop bead on, and in case you don't know how to do that, you just pick up a bead, you bring it down to the end of your thread here, leave yourself a little tail that you can hold on to. Pass your needle back up through the bead at least once, and it puts this little thread bridge here on the outside edge of the bead, and that will hold the bead onto the thread. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to pick up some beads, and we're going to pick them up in multiples of 4. So what I'm going to do is stick with these colors. I've been using a couple of different colors from my herringbone tutorials. But I'm going to start with these bronze, and these are 8/0s. Then I'm going to pick up 4 topaz. I'm going to pick up 4 bronze, and 4 topaz, and 4 bronze. And just let them all come down here and butt up against this little stop bead. And that will hold all the beads on. So let me finish up here. I'm going to get 4 more of these topaz. And then I'm going to pop off with 4 of these bronze. Alright, so once you get all of those picked up, and let them come down to your thread just like that. So I'm going to warn you guys ahead of time that this is pretty fidgety. And what I found was that it was a lot easier for me to lay my beads down on my bead mat. And as I stitch, I'm going to try to stitch down towards myself. So the first thing you do is you pick up a bead the same color as the one you're coming out of. And you're going to sew back through this end bead. You're going to skip over to and sew up through that 4th bronze bead, just like that. Let me bring it in. Let me show you again. I've got all my beads in multiples of 4. Here's my stop bead. I'm picking up this bronze, same color I'm exiting. I'm going to come into this end bead. I'm going to skip to and go into that last bronze, just like that. And then I'm going to try to hold this in place while I pull my thread through, because this first little bit is extremely fidgety. And I'm going to pull them up so they sit like this. And let me tell you this, leaving yourself a good tail is a good idea, because you need some thread to work with here as you pull these beads into position, because you're pulling your thread from the tail end. All right, so we've got that one done. Close enough. So you see this little V shape starting to take form here. So the next thing you do is you're going to pick up the color you're coming out of, as well as the color you're going into. You're coming out of that bronze bead, you're going to go into that first topaz bead, skip 2, and come through the next one. And try to hold them in place or with your fingers or whatever. And get your needle. I'm telling you, it's real fidgety, but it's really cute once you get it done. And then you're going to pull that around. So that's sitting in a little, kind of like a little V stack right here. And as you can see, it tries to twist. So just do the best that you can. So let me show you guys where the thread bridge, where you want your thread bridge. You can kind of see it right here. Let me zoom in a little bit more. You see this thread bridge is actually coming in between that second bead from the top and the second bead from the top of the topaz beads, like that. And it is real fidgety, but just hang in there. We're going to keep going. Let's zoom, well, let me stay zoomed in a little bit. Now we're coming out of topaz. I'm going to pick up a topaz. We're going to go into a bronze. So I'm going to pick up that bronze. And you can bring your beads back and forth with the stop bead to make it a little bit less wonky. But like I said, you're going to need some thread. So I'm exiting from this topaz bead. Let me get back in view here. Shoot. All right, so I'm going to exiting that topaz bead. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into that bronze bead here. I'm too close. Hold on, guys. I'm sorry. Just try it again. Let's resituate. You can see how this thread bridge right here is trying to give me some grief. It needs to be above those two beads. Like that. All right. And I told you, it's really fussy. Maybe if I pulled it tighter like that, now you can see it a little bit better. Let me flip it. Guess I needed to really bring my stop bead really far in here. Okay, let me try again. And I'm telling you, it's a pain. So we're going to pick up the topaz and then the bronze. We're going to come into this bronze right beside it. The one we're exiting, we're going to skip to and go into the next bronze. We're going to try to pull those bottom two beads we're skipping onto the same side of the beadwork as our other beads. Now just keep tightening it up as you work. You can see that as you work along, it's going to get a little bit tighter. Now I'm exiting the bronze, so I'm going to pick up the bronze, then the topaz. I am going to go into this first topaz. I'm exiting that bronze. And this is where you have to kind of loosen it back out. Skip over to and go up into the next one. Like that. And I'm not kidding. You may want to use this as a design choice at some point. But I don't know if the frustration is worth it. Alright, so I got one more round to go here. And I've just flipped everything completely around. Bring it back into place here if I can get it. We're almost there. Okay, so now we're coming out of topaz. And we're going to go into bronze. So I'm going to pick up the topaz and then the bronze. And thank goodness that this is the last one. So then it'll be a little bit easier on the next pass through. So you'll see that here in a few minutes. And let me see if I can tighten that up to make it look right. There we go. Alright, so now I'm going to go, coming out of topaz, I'm going in that bronze that's right next door, skipping to and coming up in the last bronze. And watch where your thread goes here. You don't want to catch all your beads. Now we can bring it up tight. And there you see we have these cute little V's all the way across. And see what a pain that is? Get your stop bead in if you want to, and, you know, make it a little tighter. So now we got to work back in the other direction, so I'm going to flip it over. Now that we're on the end, you're like, what the heck are we going to do now, Katrina? Because basically, look at that. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to pick up 2 of these bronze beads. And we are going to drop them down. So now we've got these 2 beads here. We're going to skip this one. We're going to sew down through just the last one we picked up, the one that's closest to the stack of beadwork. Just like that. And now we're going to sew up and step up into this next column. So it works as it works out. It's kind of like you're doing that odd count herringbone stitch that we worked on in a couple of posts here on the Alluring Bead Boutique. And now you could probably pick it up. So now we're coming out of a bronze and going into a topaz. Now we're just going to do herringbone. None of this, no more of that fidgety business. So we'll sew down and sew up our next column. So if you can figure this out, guys, it's just another way of doing things. And then you'll just continue on. Pick up the color you're Xing, then the color you're entering. Step up to your next column before you continue. And keep repeating and snugging your beads, close together so you don't have these huge gaps of exposed thread as you go. But each stitch brings that a little bit more and more closer together as you work. You see right there how it pulls it in. Come up the next one. We're going to take this last stitch as normal here with pick up topaz, then bronze. Come in. And then we're going to step up into this end bead. Make sure our thread doesn't hang up on our beadwork. So there we are. So we can flip it. And we'll just do one more row just to show you that on each end, you're going to have to do it like the odd count on the ends that in the previous video I showed you guys. So we're going to pick up 2, skip 1, and come down 1. As you come down that 1, you want to kind of dive in towards the center of this little V right there, because that's where you want your thread to fall. And then step up. And then you would just keep going. You keep working your stitch. Well, let's work through the end anyhow. And we'll take a look at how it looks. So now I'm just doing my straight herringbone and stepping up. And so with this approach, my thread bridge is actually falling in between my 2 colors there. So I've got 2 colors in this stack. And you'll see that sometimes the thread bridge falls between there, but sometimes it falls in between. It's actually falling in between the 2 colors each time. Sorry. All right, now I'm going to get bronze and then topaz second, and carry on. I like to position my beads before I step up because it just makes a much smoother look to your stitch. I hope you guys are seeing this pretty good today. We changed our air conditioning window setup here, so now my entire window is blacked out up here above my desk, where I used to have just a little bit of light coming through. Now I have none. All right, so now I'm ready to step up to this end stack again, just like that. And let's see what we've got. Of course, I'm 1 bead shy on this end because we're adding that last bead of the row as we add the first bead of the row, the next row at the same time we pick up 2. But anyhow, so here's how it looks. You get this little accordion shape. It adds a little more movement to the start end of your beadwork, which is down here, obviously. And then it just looks kind of pretty. Looks just like regular herringbone. We're just doing an odd column on each end and doing our herringbone stitches on the beads in between. And we don't have these beads tied together at the bottom or at the base. All right, so that is the most flustered, fumbling thing I've ever learned to do. But as I showed you, as you fumble along, it kind of works itself out if you keep tightening up. After you stitch through, you skip 2 and stitch over into the next one. You got to kind of tighten it up to see the shape. But once you get to the end of it, it holds together pretty well when you stitch that next row across. All right, so that is the traditional start to herringbone. And I thought I'd share it with you guys. I'm no expert at it, believe me. I did it once to show you the sample. That's the second time I've ever tried it. It's a little bit fussy. Play around with the concept. Think about, ways you could use this in your designs. And I'll see you guys next time. If you want to check out the photos and the written instructions for this, head over to the corresponding blog post. Make sure you're keeping up with all the herringbone stuff I'm showing you guys. Like, for example, how to do odd count. Never thought of that before. That's something new I learned from the Bead and Button book. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great day.